Good morning, everyone. I am Sunshine Izacha, a fourth-year BEd student from North Socialan Campus. So today, we will be discussing, or the content we will be discussing today is all about general psychology. So general psychology is one of the core areas tested in the licensure examination for teachers, especially under professional education, of course. So many let questions are situational, requiring future teachers to analyze learners' behavior, emotions, their thinking, and development rather than simply recall definitions. So this discussion we will focus on the important and commonly tested topics in general psychology. It includes major psychological perspectives, biological basis of behavior, and theories of human development such as Piaget's cognitive development and Eric Erickson's psychosocial development. So these topics help us or help the future teachers to understand how learners think, feel, behave, and respond to their environment inside and outside the classroom. So before delving deeper to our discussion, let's read or let's understand first our learning objectives. So by the end of the lecture or review, students should be able to first define psychology and differentiate between its historical schools, structuralism or functionalism. Next, explain how the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic or parasympathetic, affects student performance during high-stake testing. Identify a child's developmental stage based on observable behavior using Piagetian and Ericksonian frameworks. And apply operant conditioning or operant and classical conditioning principles to resolve classroom management dilemmas. So we will start by asking, what is psychology? Do you have any idea what is the psychology? Okay, when we say psychology, it is defined as the scientific study of the mind and behavior. So this means that psychology uses systematic and scientific methods to understand how people think, feel, and act. According to the American Psychological Association, or APA, psychology studies both conscious and unconscious phenomena as well as mental processes. So let's break down its definition. First, we have a scientific study. So when we say scientific study in psychology, it is not based on opinion, belief, or common sense alone. It uses observation, experimentation, and measurement and research. Let's say, for example, when psychologists study learning or behavior, they collect data, observe patterns, and test theories, not just guessing. So, naagod siya yung mga scientific methods wherein you will do observation, experimentation, measurement, and of course, research. Next, we have mind. So, the mind refers to internal mental processes that cannot be directly observed. Example of this are thinking, remembering, feeling, decision-making, and problem-solving. Next is behavior. Behavior includes all observable actions that can be seen and measured. Example, raising a hand, answering a question, studying an exam, and showing cooperation or aggression. Next, for unconscious and conscious phenomena. Who among you here know what is conscious and unconscious phenomena? Alright, so in psychology, it is not only study what we are aware of, but also processes that happen without our awareness. So when we say conscious, thoughts and feelings we are aware of. Example, I feel nervous before an exam. So you are aware of your feelings or your thoughts. For a conscious, no? So you are not aware but still influence behavior. You don't know the reason behind it, no? The reason behind your fears, the thoughts, no? Just like example, Annie is unexplained anxiety. There are times that we cannot explain, no, why anxiety happens with us. Okay? So always remember that it is important to distinguish behavior from mental processes. We say behavior, of course, it can be kanang directly, yung sa tawag ato, it can be directly, it was stated here, it can be directly or can be observable actions, and mine is only cannot be directly observed. Okay. So let us proceed to founders of structuralism. Are you familiar what is structuralism means? No? Okay, let's proceed. Let's know the founder of structuralism first. We have Wilhelm Wundt, considered the father of psychology. Established first psychology lab in Germany in 1879 and formed basic ideas on structuralism. So when we say structuralism, it is the study of the structure of the mind by breaking it down into basic components like sensations and feelings using introspections. So it is breaking down also naago siya category. It has categories and it has components. Okay? So let us understand what is introspection, because it was stated here, that it breaking down, the structure of the mind is breaking down into basic components like sensations and feelings using introspection. So let us discuss what is introspection. So looking inward to examine one's own conscious thoughts and sensations. So introspection, it is looking inward, no, to examine one's own conscious thoughts and sensations. So you are examining your someone's conscious thoughts and sensations. So kanang someone nga kanang they are aware of their thoughts and the sensations. So during introspection, there are trained individuals carefully describe their immediate conscious experiences, no? So, naay mga individuals that can carefully describe their immediate conscious experience. They avoided interpretation and focus only on what they sense, no? So, examples of introspective descriptions like the apple tastes sweet, sapa, the apple feels crunchy, the color is red, and lastly, I feel slight pleasure. So it was categorized, no, first kung unsa ilang conscious, kung unsa ilang na feel after eating apple. So in structuralist, no, they are not important, or they are not interested in the purpose of behavior. They were interested in what the mind is made of. So let us see the indirect classroom applications of structuralism. Again here, no, structuralism is mainly historical foundation of psychology, not an instructional model like behaviorism or constructivism. So we have first the encouraging descriptive reflection. So teachers sometimes ask students to describe their learning experiences of experiences of explaining or evaluating them. So describe what, for example, Annie is describe what you see, hear, or feel while reading this story. Next, what did you notice when you solved this problem? The mirrors introspection, where students look inward and describe their mental experiences. We have observing of conscious and experience. So teachers observe and listen to students' verbal descriptions of what they experience during learning task. Example of this, asking students to explain what they noticed while conducting an experiment. So they are observing based on their experiences. So they are aware. No, they are aware of what they are experiencing. So the teacher will ask students to explain what they noticed, asking how a math problem felt difficult or easy. So in let situational questions, no, a teacher, when the situation talks about this, no, a teacher asks students to carefully describe what they notice about painting's color, texture, and form before discussing its meaning. So it means the psychological approach that reflective in these activities is about structuralism, because the teacher is asking the students to categorize the their observation about the painting. So next, let's proceed to functionalism. Are you familiar what is functionalism? Okay. So functionalism is a school of psychology developed by William James, and it was heavily influenced by Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Functionalism focuses on how mental processes and behaviors help individuals adapt, survive, and function effectively in their environment. So unlike structuralism, ang functionalism does not ask what the mind is made of. Instead, it asks what the mind is for. So let us discuss the core focus or core ideas of functionalism. So functionalism focuses on how mental processes and behavior functions, no? So in order to help individual adapt, survive, and succeed in their environment. So it means ang functionalism here, it focuses kung paano mag-process imuhang mind or imong mental kag ang imuhang behaviors, paano mag-function imuhang mind and imong behaviors para to help you adapt and survive and succeed in the environment. Example, no? Example here is, instead of asking what is the mind made of kaning sa structuralism, sa functionalism, it asks what is the purpose of mind? How does behavior help us cope with the life situation? So it means nagod siya ka ng functional siya. So nagod siya ka ng ano bang ma-realize mo ang importance sa imuhang mga decisions. Another example here, why do humans experience fear? Another question. So in functionalist explanation, fear prepares the body for action. It increases alertness and helps avoid danger. So sa na-notice nyo sa functionalist, no? It is how your mental processes kanang think or para maka-adapt ka or maka-survive sa situation. So therefore, fear exists because it serves a survival function, not because it is pleasant. Nagoy reason. So this is a chart of structuralism and functionalism. I didn't look at it clearly. So next, why do functionalists believe emotions like fear and anxiety are important? Always remember, functionalism asks what does this behavior help us do? So we have major perspective in psychology, no? So are you familiar with major perspective in psychology? Not yet? Okay, we will discuss it. So in modern psychology, there is no single explanation for why people behave the way they do. Instead, psychology uses different perspectives, also called lenses, to explain behavior and mental processes. So each perspective focuses on different causes of behavior, especially in learning a classroom situations. So this means that the same student behavior can be explained in different ways depending on the perspective used. So why does this perspective matter in education and in LET? So in the LET, the questions often describe a classroom situation and you are asked to identify which psychological perspective best explains the behavior. To answer correctly, you must read the situation carefully. You have to read it twice, thrice until you are sure or you understand it. And second, identify the focus of the explanation and match it with the correct psychological lens. So now let's proceed to the psychodynamic perspective by Sigmund Freud. So here it emphasizes the unconscious mind and early childhood experiences. For example, a student's extreme anxiety during tests might be traced back to a specific childhood fear or failure or parental disapproval, or it is driven by unconsciousness. Let us discuss the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind contains thoughts, memories, fears, and desires that are outside of a person's awareness but still influence behavior. So kung ang unconscious mind mo siya ang we are not aware of but still it still influence how we behave or how we act. For example, a person feel anxious about but does not know why. A student avoids recitation without a clear reason, and strong emotional reactions that seem too intense for the situation. So the role of early childhood experiences, no? So Fries believe that early childhood experiences, especially those involving parents or authority figures, play a major role in shaping adult personality and behavior. So according to here, ato ang mga parents and authority figures plays a vital role or important role how we behave or our based on our personality and behavior. Example, fear of punishment, excessive criticism, and high parental expectations. So this shape us or shapes the student's personality or behavior. So students behave well because he or she fear of punishment, no? So next, let's proceed to behaviorism. When we say behaviorism, it is a theory of learning based on the idea that all behaviors are acquired through conditioning, and conditioning occurs through interaction with the environment. So behaviorists believe that environmental stimuli shape our actions. So are you familiar of what is behavior or behavioral or behaviorism? Okay. So there are many types of behaviorism. Let's first discuss the methodological behaviorism by John B. Watson. So, in John B. Watson, it is a behavioral perspective associated in Watson and B.F. Skinner explain behavior by focusing only on observable and measurable actions. No? So behaviorists reject the study of unseen mind, such as thoughts and feelings, because these cannot be directly observed or scientifically measured. Kaning mga unseen mind, mga feelings, no. So according to John Watson, psychology must be based on objective observations similar to natural sciences. So there are key characteristic of methodological behaviorism. We have rejects introspection. Okay. Next is focuses on stimulus response or SR relationships, and behavior is shaped by the environment, not the inner mental states. So classic example is that a loud sounds or stimulus caused a baby to cry. Watson believed behavior could be conditioned through repeated exposure to stimuli. So dapat nago siya repeated exposure to stimuli, just like when you want a student to follow how you want him or her to behave, you have to provide you have to expose him to stimuli, no? Dapat always like repeated stimuli siya, like everyday mahatag kag rewards, nana. Next is the classical conditioning. Are you familiar who proposed this classical conditioning? Any idea? Okay. So in classical conditioning, the learning here occurs through through association between stimuli. So a neutral stimulus becomes associated with a meaningful stimulus, producing a learned response. So that is classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov. Example, a student feels anxious when seeing an exam paper because it has been associated with past failure. And fear is learned through association, not reinforcement. So here, ang fear na learned through association, not reinforcement. So na-associate siya with something. In operant conditioning naman, it is proposed by B.F. Skinner. behavior is shaped by its consequences. So, a behavior of a student is shaped by the consequences. So, Skinner believed that behaviors followed by reinforcement are repeated. Behaviors followed by punishment are reduced. He accepted internal processes but believed they were not necessary to explain behavior. No? So, if ang behavior is followed by reinforcement, it is likely to be repeated. But if the behavior followed by punishment, it will be reduced. Let's say, for example, kaning sa behavior sa bata. Now, if you want that behavior to continue, you have to provide reinforcement. Just like positive reinforcement. So, naana siya diri. We have positive reinforcement, so giving a reward to increase behavior. Ang negative reinforcement, removing something unpleasant to increase behavior, and punishment, reducing behavior. So again, ang reinforcement, it does not only focus on positive, naapod siya negative reinforcement to have a positive behavior ng imong ganaan, to increase behavior that you wanted. Just like, let's say, ang negative reinforcement is that the student will not get I will be exempted in the next examination if makapasa siya sa first examination. No? So, it uses negative reinforcement so that ang bata is ganahan nga ipasar jud ang first examination niya. So, in classroom example, a student studies harder because they receive a gold star for every high score. So, the study increases because it is reinforced. And what reinforcement does it use? Kaning gold star? Very good. It is positive reinforcement. So now, let's proceed to humanistic approach in psychology. So, the humanistic perspective in psychology developed as a reaction to both behaviorism and psychodynamic theory. While behaviorism focuses on observable behavior and psychodynamic theory emphasizes unconscious conflicts, the humanistic perspective highlights the positive potential of human beings. It emphasizes free will because, ang humanistic perspective, it emphasizes free will, personal responsibility, and the natural drive toward growth and self-actualization. So this perspective is commonly associated with Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, and it has strong implications in education, particularly in our understanding motivation, self-concept, and student-centered learning. So now let's proceed to Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. So Abraham Maslow proposed that human motivation is organized into hierarchy of needs arranged from basic to higher level needs. A person must generally satisfy lower level needs before focusing on higher level growth needs. So the pinaka-base is the physiological needs. So it includes food, water, rest. A hungry or tired student will struggle to learn if dili niya mamit nga level, in the hierarchy. So it is important that we student first meet the physiological needs of the hierarchy. Second is the safety needs. So it includes the security, stability, and safe environment. So fear and anxiety interfere with learning. Of course, not so much. A lot of here kanang mga students is lacking or dili pa sila satisfied or wala pa nila na achieve ning safety needs. They are not yet stable. They are not yet secured. And some of them don't have safe environment. Next is the love and belongingness. It is where the acceptance, friendships, and sense of belonging belongs. So here, positive teacher-student relationships matter in this level of hierarchy. Next is the esteem needs. This is where the confidence, achievement, and recognition appear. So if you have you kanang experience love, belongingness, you are safe, yung physiological needs, you will have confidence, you will achieve what you want and you will be recognized. So praise and encouragement, support, motivation. So lastly is the self-actualization. This is where you will achieve one's full potential. Kanang here achieve all of your kanabang mga potentials at this level. Kay tanan na-satisfy na nimo ang levels 1 to 4. So here at this level, you will of course achieving your full potential. So in educational implications of Maslow theory, in education, students learn best when basic needs are met. Teachers should create a safe and supportive classroom, and motivation is linked to emotional and psychological well-being. So why do you think it is important? Now we have, as a future teacher, it's important that we linked our the motivation is linked to emotional and psychological well-being of students. Please share your answers below. Now let's proceed to Carl Rogers' person-centered therapy. So according to kay Carl Rogers, he emphasized that learning occurs best in an environment that supports the self-concept and emotional needs of the learner. So included the gihapon ng emotional needs ng learners. So there are four important concepts. First is the self-concept, second unconditional positive regard, third is the empathy, and fourth is the congruence or genuineness. Self-concept, it is how individuals see and value themselves. It is a positive self-concept enhances learning. So dapat students know no or have positive self-concept, or kanang they know or they see and value, they know how to see and value themselves because it enhances their learning. Second is unconditional positive regard. So this is about accepting learners without judgment. So as a teacher, it's important for us to accept all the learners. So we have to make sure that they are their needs are being satisfied, no? And here students feel valued regardless of mistakes. And empathy, we have to understand students' feelings and perspectives. Next is congruence or genuineness. Teachers should be authentic and sincere. So Rogers advocated for student-centered learning because it circulates in the students alone. And active participation, and teachers here stand as facilitators rather than authority. Now let us understand the role of the humanistic perspective in education. So we have it first emphasized respecting individual differences, encouraging self-directed learning, supporting emotional and social development, and fostering intrinsic motivations. So here, teachers are guided by this perspective, promote autonomy, encourage creativity, build confidence, and value the learner's voice. So we have here classroom example. So a teacher who encourages open discussion, respects students' opinions, provides emotional support, motivates students through encouragement rather than punishment. The teacher is applying humanistic principles. So the humanistic approach emphasizes the learner's free will, personal growth, and capacity for self-actualization. So they focus good siya sa learners. Now let's proceed to the cognitive perspective in psychology. So the cognitive perspective in psychology focuses on how people think, learn, remember, and solve problems. Unlike behaviorism, which studies only observable behavior, the cognitive perspective here examines internal mental processes. So psychologists using this approach study how information is received, processed, stored, and retrieved by the mind. So this perspective became prominent during the cognitive revolution in the mid-20th century and is one of the most influential approaches in educational psychology today. So let us discuss its core assumptions, the core assumptions of cognitive perspective. So we have first the mind as an information processor. So here the mind works similarly to a computer by handling information in stages. First, input, process, and output. Second, we have the mental processes can be studied scientifically. So although thoughts are not directly observable, as what I have said earlier from what I have said earlier, cognitive psychologists study them through experiments, problem-solving tasks, memory tests, and observation of learning outcomes. And the third assumptions is that learners are active participants. Students actively organize, interpret, and make sense of information rather than passively responding to stimuli. So let us discuss this input process output model. Now let us explain this. Kani. So input, it is information enters the mind through the senses. That is through seeing, hearing, reading. Just like if you touch the fire, it masunod sa iyong mind nga, it's hot. Then you will process. If imo siya i-touch balik, will it hurt you? So this is where you interpret and organize information through thinking, analyzing, and connecting it with prior knowledge. So you will say when you touch a stove or a fire, now you will be hurt. So the output here, you will respond. No, you will know how to respond. No, you will know how to act again according sa imuhang na experience. So let's proceed to the schemas. Now, schema is a mental structure or framework that helps individual organize and interpret information. So schemas function like folders in a computer, allowing learners to first group related information, make sense of new ideas, and retrieve stored knowledge efficiently. So the role of memory in cognitive learning, we have sensory memory. It is a brief storage of sensory information. Next is the short term. It is a temporary ragud siya, of course, from its root word short term. Long term, of course, it is a permanent storage of knowledge. So in educational or the applications here in education about the cognitive perspective, teaching students how to learn. No? It emphasizes teaching students how to learn. It develops study strategies, encouraging understanding rather than memorization. Promoting critical thinking and problem solving. Examples of cognitive teaching strategies include concept mapping, mnemonics, chunking information, and note taking and summarizing. Let's proceed to biological basis of behavior. The biological basis of behavior explain how biological structures and processes in the body influence human behavior, emotions, and thinking. So, diri naman, behavior naman siya. Behavior, biological basis na po siya. So, we have the central nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. It serves as the body command center responsible for processing information and making decisions. So, mauna siya ang purpose ng central nervous system. Ang function is it receives information from the senses, interprets and analyzes information, sends instructions to the rest of the body, and controls thinking, learning, memory, and emotion. Now, the role of the brain, it is responsible for thinking, reasoning, problem solving, and decision making. It controls voluntary and involuntary actions. When say, kani mga involuntary actions, mga like pag-blink sa imong eyes, ingana, like automatic agad siya ga-blink without you telling it to blink, inana. And the role of the spinal cord, it acts as the main pathway for the message between the brain and the body. It controls reflex actions. Muna siya ang purpose ng spinal cord. So, muna, kapag imong spinal cord is being, na-ruin siya, or something na disgrasya ka, then the spinal cord ang na-damage, well, you cannot, dili na gud ka, ma-bedridden na lang gud ka. Now, let's proceed to peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system, or PNS, consists of all nerves outside the brain and spinal cord. It acts as the messenger system, carrying information to and from the central nervous system. Ang main role sa PNS, or peripheral nervous system, it transmits sensory information to the central nervous system. It carries commands from the CNS to muscles and glands, connects the brain and spinal cord to the rest of the body. While ang autonomic nervous system, it controls autonomic and involuntary responses such as heart rate, breathing, and digestions. It operates without conscious effort, though. So the autonomic nervous system has two major divisions, the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So here, sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. The sympathetic nervous system prepares the body to respond to stress, danger, or emergency situations. The functions, when it activated, it increases heart rate, increases breathing rate, causes sweating, releases adrenaline, and prepares the body for action muna. If kaning sympathetic nervous system, no, it prepares our body to respond sa mga danger or mga emergency situations. Let's say, for example, na ay imuhang daw, grades is bagsak, yan. So, there's possibility na ma-increase gud imuhang heart rate, like kuya, na kaayo ka because of the situation you are in. Parasympathetic nervous system, it is rest and digest. The parasympathetic nervous system helps the body calm down and return to normal functioning after stress. So when it activated, it slows down heart rate, it promotes digestion, relaxes muscles, conserves energy, and restores balance. Now let's proceed to Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So there are different stages. So Jean Piaget is a Swiss psychologist and proposed the cognitive development theory. So the basic idea of Piaget's theory is children are active learners. Knowledge is constructive thinking developed in stages. So let's have here the cognitive process. First, we have the schema. This is the mental framework used to organize information. Next is assimilation, adding new information to an existing schema. Accommodation, modifying schemas to fit new experiences. And equilibration, balancing assimilation and accommodation. Okay. So in a schema again, in schemas, this is like folders in the brain where knowledge is stored. Diri na niyo mga prior information or knowledge being stored. Ang mga schema, like kanang ang cat has 4 legs. No, mga schema na mga information or knowledge na In assimilation, say for example, what a dog is called. Like ako nang bala, cat nga naa siya 4-legged animal. So you will assimilate it or you will categorize it as a dog kanang mga naay 4-legged animals. When we say in accommodation, here you will learn that a cat is different from a dog and changes the schema. No, ang schema mo to ang schema mo mga storage imo mga knowledge or mga information that you know. So since in accommodation you will learn that cat is different from the dog, you change your schema, your understanding about the cat. And ang equilibration, this is the balance between assimilation and accommodation that drives cognitive development. Now, in sensory motor stage, let's proceed to the Piaget stages of cognitive development. Let's have first the sensory motor stage, 0 to 2 years old, learning through senses na diriya. Basta sensory motor stage, students learning through senses. And the object permanence, it understands that object exists even when unseen. So let's say if you drop a pencil, here we call it object permanence because you understand that ang object is naragihapon dito na naatak ra, dili mawala. Next is pre-operational stage. This is where the symbolic thinking, egocentrism, and lack of conservation appears. So use of words, images, and pretend play, kabalundring mga bata. You have here you have difficulty, or the bata or the student or the child in 2 to 7 years old have difficulty understanding others' perspective, and they believe that appearance changes quantity. Now, in cognitive operational stage, 7 to 11 years old, this is where the logical thinking appears. Now, thinking becomes more organized and systematic. So here, they understand that quantity remains the same even if it changes the kanang iyahang image or how it looks. And reversibility, ability to mentally undo actions. The formal operational stage, 12 years old and above, this is where abstract thinking, students here or the child have the ability to think beyond concrete experiences. And it's think about possibilities and future outcomes. So, in lead exam application, Erik Erikson, 1902-1994, German psychologist. And in psychosocial development theory, it explains personality development across the lifespan. So core ideas of Eric Erikson, the development is lifelong. So of course it occurs from infancy to old stage. Next is um, each stage has crisis or crisis. Crisis. So it is a conflict that must be resolved. Positive or negative outcomes, resolution affects personality. Okay. So Eric Erikson proposed that human development occurs in 8 stages, each with psychosocial crisis. How a person resolves each crisis influences self-confidence, relationship, and behavior. So stage 1, the trust versus mistrust, 0 to 1 years old. So here, infants learn whether the world is safe or unsafe depending on how caregivers respond to their needs. Consistent care leads to trust, neglect leads to mistrust. Next to stage 2. So here in stage 2, toddlers here want to assert independence. Encouragement builds in autonomy while over-control causes shame and self-doubt. So in stage 3, the initiative versus guilt, children here begin to explore, ask questions, and initiate activities. Its support builds initiative. Builds initiative, and excessive criticism leads to guilt. Next is the industry versus inferiority. This appears in 6 to 12 years old. So here, school-age children want to feel capable. So praise and encouragement promote industry, while repeated failure leads to inferiority. For the stage 5, identity versus role confusion. Here, adolescents explore different roles and beliefs. Successful resolution results in a strong identity. Failures results in confusion. Next is the stages 6 to 8, which is the adulthood. So here, this stages focuses on relationships, productivity, and life satisfaction. Although not classroom-based, they appear in general psychology questions at ang let. So, the educational implications of kaning Erikson is that it support emotional needs. So learning is affected by emotions. It encourage effort and confidence, and also prevent feelings of inferiority, and it promote identity development, especially in adolescents. So here, teachers play a key role in shaping learners' psychosocial development. Encouragement, fairness, and support help students resolve crisis positively. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you learned something from me, and I hope you can use it as you pass your lab examination. Thank you.